writer of an essay I read years ago described her childhood self as a wide-eyed little girl who really believed she rode giraffes and danced with the fairies and fireflies on warm summer nights. A love affair with nature, especially with bugs, and a wealth of imagination led that little girl to a professional life devoted to research and writing. And she's here tonight. Dr. Eleanor Spicer Weiss, a Goldsboro native, is the daughter of James and Catherine Spicer, the sister of Will Spicer, and the aunt of Will and Elizabeth, Billy and James. She's quite a family woman. She and her husband, Gregory, have two beautiful little boys, Pete and Thompson, and they make their home in Raleigh. Before I can give you more facts about the professional background of Eleanor, I want to give you my opinion, which, in my opinion, is a fact. Eleanor is one of the nicest people I have ever known in my long life. That's the truth. She graduated from Eastern Wayne High School, over that way, and from North Carolina State University. She earned her master's degree in science from the University of Georgia, and she returned to North Carolina State for her PhD in entomology. She has served as a commentator on the Discovery Channel and the Science Channel. She's a regular contributor to Our State magazine, and I don't know about you, but the minute mine comes, I search for her name, and I read about sea turtles, blue crabs, oysters, our state insect, the honeybee, varieties of honey, hemlock forest, the furniture industry, and even our city of Goldsboro. Those are some of the articles. Readers voted for her piece on the bringing of lights to Eastern North Carolina as their favorite story of 2014. And we have another native of Goldsboro who also writes for our state magazine, with Eleanor's business partners, Robert Sutton Anderson. Eleanor has written for other publications, including the News Observer and the Charlotte Observer, and as Dave just mentioned today, North Carolina Wildlife. Got one? Okay, I've been in that Wildlife magazine from my childhood. If you love the interactive Dr. Eleanor's book of Common Ants online, you'll be excited to know that her whole series of books about common ants and spiders will be in print this summer through the University of Chicago Press. She is currently Senior Science Editor of Verdant Word, a science communications company. When Eleanor and her aunt book were my topic for Liz Meadows' column, Language Matters, Dr. Holly Menninger of North Carolina State said this to me. Not only is Eleanor a respected and accomplished ant biologist, she has this wonderful ability to make anyone, everyone, excited about ants. She talks and writes about them in such a conversational and easy to understand way. We hope Dr. Eleanor inspires young people, she said, particularly young women, to get outside, investigate the lives of their tiny neighbors, and consider a future career in science, maybe even entomology. So that's from a member of the faculty that study. Eleanor, you've always made us proud, and we thank you for coming tonight to open our eyes a little bit wider to the world around us. Please help me welcome Eleanor Spicer.
Quit while I'm ahead. I want to go on home and watch the game. I'm really excited to be here tonight because Queso said that I could talk about whatever I wanted to talk about for 45 minutes. Nobody ever wants me to talk that long, even my family. So no chance. Get ready. So I want to talk about something. The topic I picked is something that's a really hot topic in science right now, which is biodiversity. But since I can talk about whatever I want to talk about, first I want to talk about something else. I like to talk about me. Because I'm from here, And I just want to say before I start that being from Goldsboro, the actual place of Goldsboro, besides all of you people, which is the best community anybody could ask for and the best family anybody could ask for, but being actually from the place of Goldsboro is a gift. And growing up here is a gift that almost nobody else in the world gets to receive. And that's what I want to explore tonight in my talk. One of the things I like doing in Goldsboro, this really isn't going to be great for the tourism board of Goldsboro, as I talk about how awesome it is I like to stare at a log a lot when I was little. It was at my parents' house, it was in their backyard, and this is really why nobody was going to be interested. I liked it because it had this big leopard slug on it. Her name was Bertha. She was about 3 inches long. I'd take her to school, and then I'd bring her back home and put her back on the log. And I'd spend a lot of time staring at the log. And as I stared at it, well, you remember Bertha. That's what she looked like. As I stared at the log, I would notice that a lot of other things were living on the log too. Sometimes she would have eggs, and that was really cool. But then as you stopped, and if you're still enough, you can see that there's a whole bunch of stuff around you. So there'd be roly-polies or a cricket or wood lice or those things, best bugs, you know how those, and you put them in your ears and you squeak. They're really cute. And they have mice living on them. And then they always had worms and ants, my favorite. And they had other things that kind of creeped me out, like centipedes and millipedes. And then there was all this other stuff on the log that I didn't really care about because it's boring, like mushrooms and other fungi that lived in the soil. And then there were boring plants, plant people living on the log. And then, lichens and stuff. And then other stuff that I wouldn't find out about for years, like all the bacteria that were living in the soil. And all of this life is packed into this teeny tiny log over on Park Avenue A here in Goldsboro. And all of this life is really exciting to me. And this is what we call biodiversity. So for biodiversity is just the variety of life that's in an area. It's not the amount of life, it's the different types of life that are in an area. So this crowd of a bunch of people has a lower biodiversity than this old dude and his dog. Because even though there's a whole bunch of people there, there's only basically, if you're looking at it, one species. There's 2 species there. Or, just to belabor the point, this tobacco field, just from looking at it, has a lower biodiversity than this forest. Because there's tons of different things growing in this forest, but just from looking at it, giving it an eyeball, the tobacco field is just tobacco. So what I want to do tonight is to talk about biodiversity. And I want to talk about what happens when we stop and we look at things. Because what we find is that there is an astonishing array of life every time we stop to look. And we also find that we pretty much know nothing about anything ever. And so that's what I want us to do. I want to start with ourselves and then look out into our homes, into our yard, and then look farther out into our world around us. And if you're like my dad and you fell asleep during my PhD defense seminar and you wake up and wonder where you are, you can follow along at the bottom. She's almost done. So first I want to start talking about ourselves. But to do that, I have to tell you about this guy. This is Antony van Leeuwenhoek. I'm going to call him Anthony because it's easier to say. He lived in the 1600s, late 1600s, early 1700s. He was a draper, and he made clothes, so he sold fine cloths. And he wanted to see what his cloths looked like. He wanted to see the threads and his fabrics of his cloths. And all of the magnifying glasses were pretty bad at the time. So he went home and he tinkered with glass. And he made a microscope, what we now know of as a microscope. And he started looking at those cloths, and that was pretty neat, but cloth is boring. So then he started doing what normal people do and started looking at other stuff too. So he would look at coffee beans, and he'd squeeze them and see the oils coming out and make really cool observations. And then he started looking at his slobber, and he saw that in his spit there was stuff growing and moving around in there. And he called them animalcules, what we now know as bacteria, but nobody had ever even heard of anything like that before. And then he started looking at his feces, and he found that there was stuff growing in there. That's crazy. So, like any normal person would do, he went over to his friends' houses and was like, "Hey, can I look at your slobber and your feces?" Yeah, let's do it. So he went and looked at all their slobber and all their feces, and he found that there was stuff growing on everybody. And it was exciting and amazing. And that was 300-something, 400-something years ago, that was the biggest advance we had in the microbiome for 400 years until recently. In the last 20 years or so, we've gotten these really great tools to analyze stuff, and we now can take a closer look at what's living on us, and we now can actually tell who the different things are that are living on us, and we can test what they're doing on us. So let's start with our belly buttons, right? So this people at NC State are like, we got this little cave on our bodies. What's living in there? And they went and they swabbed people's belly buttons to see what was living on them, and they plated them and saw what grew. And then they had special people go through who had the tools to see what the different things were. And they found more than 2,000 different types of microbes living inside just 60 belly buttons. And a microbe is anything that's small, like a virus or bacteria or a fungi. A microbe does not count the forehead mites that live on every single one of your foreheads that comes out at night and crawls across your head looking for a lover. Which is, but that is totally unrelated to what I'm talking about right now. I just wanted you to know that was happening when you go to sleep tonight. So when they looked at our bodies, you can't get rid of them, so don't worry about it. But when they looked at our bodies, they found that we were totally packed with life, and we are covered in life, and it's really exciting. So the most recent study and conservative study that they found is that for every one human cell you have on your body, you have at least one microbe cell living on or in your body. So 50% of what you think of as yourself is actually something else. It's a microbe. At least. Some people say 1 in 10, but I trust this study. And they're everywhere on us. They're in our spit, like Angie said, helping us digest our food. They're in our eye ducts. They're covering our skin. And we have this tremendous biodiversity doing stuff on us. Each of us has our own unique microbial fingerprint. And you can't wash it off, and you don't want to wash it off, because if you did, you would probably die of the disease, because it's our first line of defense against disease. Because you have this jungle living on your skin, they're fighting each other for space, they're communicating with each other, and they're keeping other things out. So you need them to keep you healthy. My favorite place for microbes is in the intestinal tract, in your gut. And when they looked at the microbes that's living in your gut, the reason I like it is because there's tons of them in there. And they do everything. They boost your immune system. Some of these actually talk to your immune cells and tell them to produce more immune cells if you need them. Recent studies have shown that they might be able to influence your mood. They help you to digest your food. They keep you from getting inflamed. They're just all over the place, just having a great time in there. And when they analyzed what was living in your gut, and they checked out their DNA, and they ran them and made these trees to see who they're related to, they found that they're actually closely related to the types of bacteria that live in acidic hot pools and deep sea vents, super extreme environments. And when you think about it, your gut is a really extreme environment, right? So that was really cool that happened, I guess. But you need all these different things living in you to keep you healthy and happy. And you need the biodiversity that is yours to be inside of you. And sometimes what happens is that we can alter this biodiversity and it messes us up. For some people, this is just a picture of all the glorious things that are living in your intestines right now. And for some people, when they take certain antibiotics, they wipe out a lot of the things that are living in their intestines. And when that happens, certain bacteria that are living in your intestines are able to go gangbusters and go crazy because there's nobody taking up resources from them. So this is Clostridium difficile. This is in some people. And when they take antibiotics, they end up getting really, really sick because this thing makes them have all kinds of intestinal problems. 14,000 people in the United States a year die with complications resulting from these C. diff infections. Or I guess it's not really an infection since it's already living in you, but you know. And that's just people who die. And up until recently, the way they were treating for this is that they were giving people more antibiotics, and it wasn't that effective for a lot of people. So they found a way to help treat people who have this problem, and that is to repopulate their intestinal system with these bacteria and other things that were living there. So they do poop transplants or fecal transplants. They take the feces from one person who has healthy poop and they put it into your body. And Johns Hopkins Medical Center and Harvard University have both found that these fecal transplants are actually more than 90% effective at treating for people who have these problems. And I'm not telling you that to gross you out, but you're probably not grossed out. Probably you're just glad that Anthony von Leeuwenhoek is not your next door neighbor. But I am telling you this because exciting that we need this biodiversity that's living on us. And we don't know what a lot of it is doing. And when we look, every single time we look, we find a huge array of things that are going on us. And it's the same thing with our yards. All of that stuff that we know now has taken place in the last 20 to 25 years. It's all brand new, and there's all tons more left to discover. So, to tell you about our homes, I want to tell you about Holly. This is Holly. She works at NC State. And she moved down here, and she got creeped out because she had a camel cricket living in her basement. And she's an entomologist. The camel crickets are creepy to everybody because they jump at you, not away from you. It doesn't make any sense in terms of like the survival strategy. So she looked at camel crickets, and she was wondering how they were living there, what they were doing, why they're always living in your house. And she found out that they've evolved to live in caves, blah, blah, blah. But as she was looking, she realized that we don't really know what's living in our house. So she teamed up with this guy, Rob Dunn. He's listed as a co-author on my ant books. And they went around and they got these researchers to comb through people's houses and they catch as many arthropods. An arthropod is anything with one exoskeleton, like an insect or a spider or millipedes or something. So they captured as many arthropods as they could in your home, and they analyzed them to see what they had. So when you think about what's living in your home, what do y'all usually think about? Like pests? Is this what, are these the kind of creatures you usually think about? We've got roaches up here. And that's what a lot of people think about, is sharing their homes with them, because a lot of times we don't, when it comes to living things, especially bugs, we don't notice them unless they become a problem for us. But they found in homes that more than 200 species of creatures in these homes. And on average, the average home, no matter how clean it was, had at least 100 species living in it. Not 100 bugs, 100 different types of bugs living in your house. And I understand that might freak you out, but don't be afraid, because most of them are wonderful. Don't even pay attention to this. This is just a breakdown of the types of bugs. I just wanted you to see the pretty pictures of the ones that were living in your house. What they found is that most of the bugs are just passing through. And the ones that were living there, fewer than 5% of them were actually pest species. The rest of them either didn't bother you at all, they were using stuff that you lived with, or they were there to help you. In fact, more pests is what happens when we alter that huge biodiversity of our house, because we provide one species with this huge resource, and they go crazy, just like the bacteria in our guts, and at the expense of other species. So you don't want to really alter the biodiversity of your house. I'm going to tell you about 3 of them that they found in houses that I like a lot. This is a cellar spider. You know these guys, right? Y'all seen them? They found them in every house they sampled. They're usually in probably in your crawl spaces or your basement or your closet. They hang upside down. They have long, spindly legs. They're really dorky looking for spiders. I mean, they're not frightening or anything. And but what they do is they crawl around your house at night and they find other spider webs. And when they get to the other spider webs, they stick their little long, skinny legs on them, and they do what they call a death dance. And they shake the web like they're a dying insect in the web. And the spider in the web gets so excited because it's called the meal of a lifetime. It runs out, and this one throws a net of web over it and gobbles it up, and then lives in its web and eats all the stuff that was meant for the other spider. So they're really like the biggest jerks in the world. And they also have this really cool behavior because they're all skinny and spindly. And when you get up to the web, when we get up to the web, they have this predator avoidance behavior where they drop down and they spin like a figure skater, and they spin so fast that they look like they vanished in the thin air. And then you're like, no spiders here, I guess I'll keep moving. And they're like, shite, and climb back up to the web. So they're really cool. Their odds are very high that you have them in your house. This is another one that I really like that they found in their houses. This is the beaded lacewing. Lacewings are really cute. You've probably seen them flying around the yard. They've got those big old eyes. They're just charming. But what lacewings live in houses where people have low infestations of termites. And what they do is they, this one's for you. This is something that an 8-year-old will like. What they do is they have these little babies, and this is what their baby looks like. And they lay their eggs along the termite nest, and these babies eat termites, but they couldn't do it in just a normal way. So what they do is they see a termite, they get really excited, They turn around, they point their rear end in the termite's face, and they release what the scientific literature calls a vapor phase toxicant. So they break wind to the face. And then the termites get so overpowered that they pass out cold. They just pass out. And then they turn around, they gobble them up. And one SBD from this little creature can kill 6, knock out 6 termites. So they're really good to have around, even though they're kind of weird. And here's another one that I like. And if you have roaches in your house, you definitely have this, but you've probably never seen it. It's a wasp, and it can fit on the head of a pin. And you can see what she, does this have a little thing? Oh, yeah. So she has this right here. This is what she uses to deposit eggs. She specializes in cockroaches. So she goes to cockroach egg cases, and she sticks that in there, and she lays her eggs in the egg case. And then the babies come out, and they swim around, and they eat all the babies in the egg case. And then instead of cockroaches emerging, it's these little wasps. And each little wasp in your house can kill thousands of cockroaches. They're really great to have around, and you actually have them. And so having this huge biodiversity in your house is really awesome. There's my living room. So it's really great to have. And it's really great that we maintain it, because when you alter it, that's when you cause problems for everything, right? So now I want to look at our yards, and I want to show you this guy. This is Brian Brown. He works at the LA County Science Museum of Natural History or whatever. He's really dorky, even for an entomologist, because he studies these flies, and they're called forward flies. We entomologists are very snobby about the species that we study, and an ant person would always think of forward flies. So, because look at them. They're just little natty looking things. Nobody pays attention to them, right? So he was giving this presentation at the museum 2 years ago, and he was bragging that he could find a new species of forward fly anywhere he looked. And a trustee raised her hand, and she said, "Oh, so you could find one in my yard?" He was like, "Yep." So he went out to her yard, and he found a new species that day. So then he was all proud of himself, because he's a fly guy. And so he went to all the yards around her. He left a trap out for a year. And he found more than 30 new species of forward flies in a year. He wasn't looking for anything else. He was just looking for this weird, boring little fly. And they're not new species. They're just new to us. We just don't know what's living there, right? We have no idea right now. We just know what they're called now, because he named them all, probably after some stupid rock band in the 80s. But we don't know what they're eating. We don't know who they live with. We don't know how they're interacting with anything. We just know that they're there. And this is just one tiny fly. There's tons of stuff living in our yards. And it's important that we learn what they're doing, because we can really mess stuff up when we don't know what they're doing, right? So who thinks that mosquitoes are a worse problem than they were when we were little? Is that gross? Yeah, it's gross. Fecal transplants, cool. Okay, so do we think we have worse problems with mosquitoes than we used to? Does anybody feel like they're worse? They actually are worse than they used to be. And the reason is because we have messed it up. We have an excellent mosquito biodiversity in the state of North Carolina. Be proud, North Carolinians. We have more than 60 species living here. And they all compete with each other, just like the things in your gut and on your skin, just like the little creatures in your house. They're regulating each other's populations. They're keeping each other going strong. And most of them don't bother us at all. These 3 little species only eat reptiles and amphibians. I mean, sorry, Mr. Frog, but the rest of us are doing pretty good if you're hanging out there, because they're taking away resources from things that eat us. This one, I caught one like this in my parents' car last summer over on Mulberry Street. This is an elephant mosquito. As an adult, it pollinates plants. As a baby, it swims around and gobbles up other mosquito babies. It's great to have around, right? But then, what do? We bring this one over here. This is the Asian tiger mosquito. It came in on a shipment of tigers in the late 80s. I don't know. Since then, it has spread across the South. When it got here, we were like, who cares? It's just a mosquito. Well, now we really care. They're super aggressive. They've evolved to live with people. We unwittingly provide all kinds of nesting places for them. They outcompete our native species in areas that they've come. These are nesting places, by the way, like your potted plants. You can have hundreds of these mosquito babies in a discarded water bottle in your backyard. They're really good at living in these temporary water containers. They're way more aggressive than our native species. They transmit diseases like chikungunya and dengue, and they're active during the daytime. So this is just an example of what happens when we mess around with our biodiversity and we alter it. In this case, we added a species, right? But other than that, we added it because we didn't know. We weren't paying attention. And we need to pay attention because we have this wonderful, wonderful group of creatures living around us. We have more than 500 native bee species living in North Carolina. A lot of them, we don't even know what they do. They're providing services for us for free. Unlike honeybees are not native to North Carolina. They're not native to the United States. We brought them over here. They're great generalists, but they don't pollinate a lot of things that we might want pollinated and not even know about. And they're not ours. This here is an apple orchard mason bee. They're from around here. They can pollinate 250 of these can pollinate 1 acre of apples. It takes 60,000 honeybees to pollinate the same acre of apples. But these evolved with the plants. They're shaped like the plants that they love. We have 174 butterfly species in the state of North Carolina. As caterpillars, they do one thing, as adults do the other thing, and we're just now learning things that they do. Just last year, we found out that azaleas need the flap of a butterfly's wings to be pollinated. We didn't know that. We just found it out last year. We have no idea how these things are acting with us. We have more than 250 species of ants in North Carolina, and ants are the best. And they really are. Fewer than a dozen of them are pest species, but every time people see ants, they think that they have to kill them. This is my favorite ant in North Carolina species. This is the winnow ant. It's a really good looking ant because, I mean, look at it. If you take the time to look at ants, it's long and spindly and it's beautiful. And what they do is they plant seeds in the forest and they plant seeds in your yards. You very likely have them. My brother has them in his yard, my parents don't. But a lot of seeds evolve this coating on it called an elaiosome. And elaiosomes have a lot of protein in them, and they're very attractive to ants. So an ant sees a seed with an elaiosome on it, it goes crazy. It takes it back to its nest, it eats it off, and then it plants the seed in the forest. And when you take these ants out of an ecosystem, the wildflower and herbaceous plant abundance and diversity can drop by as much as 50%, because we really depend on them to do stuff. And it's not just planting seeds. That's great, but they do other things too. They turn morsels into earthworms. They keep pest populations in check. They operate as predators, keeping all kinds of things in check as predators, but they also operate as prey. There is a species of bird that's endangered here in North Carolina, and the primary source of its diet is ants. We need ants, okay? Just get excited. Oh, I don't know what Risen said, but whatever she said I could do it, get excited. So we have more than 20 species of fireflies in North Carolina, and they each are blinking out their own little Morse code to each other in the yards at night. But we don't know a lot about what they do other than that. We know that as babies, they're predators, but we know that as adults, they have some crazy interactions with each other and with things like spiders and stuff, but we're not sure because we just don't have the time to study everything. So we need to stop and pay attention and see what's happening. We do know that when you leave your yard lights on at night, they can't see each other, so they can't talk to each other at night. And so people worry about spraying for mosquitoes, but maybe also worry about leaving your yard light on at night. So if we don't know what's going on in our yard, what about our world? What about what's going on in Wayne County in eastern North Carolina? This is a great map. I'm very proud of this map, and I didn't make it. I stole it off the internet. This is a map of everything that's highlighted or dark is a global biodiversity hotspot. That's where we have the most species of animals, the highest concentration of species anywhere in the world, right? There's a Horn of Africa, of course, they get everything. There is Borneo. Look, Daddy. It's like you're from Borneo. There's Madagascar, the poster child of biodiversity. And then look at this. That's us, eastern North Carolina. Last year, we were named as part, the coastal plain was named as part of a global biodiversity hotspot. Right here, we have more species than anywhere else in the world almost. And I was telling you that growing up here is a gift. It is a tremendous gift, and it's a beautiful gift that we each have because we're all a part of it. And when researchers really underestimated us for a long time, because when they think about biodiversity, they think about these beautiful jungles or whatever, and then they look over here and they're like, it's mostly below sea level, a lot of it is flat. But we knew better because we know that there's always stuff hitting us in the head when we're trying to go for a walk at night. We know there's tons of different species here. And when they looked, they learned better. We found that we have more than 6,000 plant species in our area. 30% of those can only grow here, like the longleaf pine, which we almost drove to extinction by logging practices and our forest suppression. We have more than 400 species of fish here. More than 30% of those can only go here. That little shiner right there only lives in the whole world in 3 counties in North Carolina, and that's it. That's all it's got in its life, and they're really cute. And then we have more than 100 species of amphibians. Almost half of our amphibians can only occur in this area, like most of you guys. Look at that. Who wants to run into that? Me? And then we have almost 300 species of reptiles. Almost 40 species of those can only occur in this area. That's a chicken turtle. He's got a long neck. That's all I like him. We have more than 300 species of mammals. Almost 40% of those only occur here. This actually occurs in western North Carolina, so it's not included, but it's really cute, so I put it on there because it's endangered. That's the long-eared bat. And 51 species of birds can only breed in this global biodiversity hotspot. This is the red-cockaded woodpecker, which eats ants largely, and depended on the trees that we almost drove to extinction, and they all kind of almost fell apart thanks to us. So why do we care? I mean, why should we even preserve this? Let's just go for it, you know? Well, it's ours, it's our heritage, and it's what we have to go along with it. I mean, to give and, you know, whatever. A lot of people don't really care about that touchy-feely stuff. So another thing is that these things are providing services for us for free that we can't do ourselves. These animals are cleaning our water. If we have good biodiversity that belongs here, where our environment is better able to bounce back after things like fires and hurricanes, they're giving us oxygen. If we don't depend on it, there's something that we need that's going to depend on it, or there's something that we need that depends on something. I mean, we're all stuck together and we need it. Another thing is we truly just need it. This is an emerald ash borer. It's a really good looking beetle, and we brought it in to the Midwest in the late 90s, mid-90s, I think. And it killed 100 million ash trees in a very short amount of time. And because it did that, researchers got really excited because you're able to look at county level data of trees dying, you know? So we went back and looked through, and you could see this county lost its trees, this one didn't. And where they did lose the ash trees, they found that the incidence of human mortality from heart attacks and respiratory infections skyrocketed because we need the trees to live. They lower the temperature around us. They are cleaning the air for us. They are giving us oxygen. We really do need them. And a lot of times we don't notice it until it's gone or until we're gone. We also need them for industry type things. This is the blue mussel. They live over on the coast in North Carolina. You can probably find them. They have this super strong glue that is really great in wet places. And so right now we don't know how to make glues like that are super great. And so we're actually looking, not me, but researchers are actually looking at this right now to see if they can figure out how to use this glue to help stick our teeth back into our mouths where we need a lot of pressure and it's wet. We'll put submarines together. And this is the Pacific yew tree. This is another way that we need these things. So every time they logged an area, they would find these trees and they'd be like, the yew tree grows, who needs them? And throw them out. And they almost drove the yew tree to extinction until this chemist guy came along and said, hey, wait a second. This tree produces this really crazy chemical called Taxol, which we've never had, we have no idea how to synthesize. It's really interesting. Now Taxol is the best-selling cancer drug in the history of cancer drugs, right? And it's an essential medicine for us. And we almost drove this tree to extinction, right? And that's bad because we don't know what we have, but we do know that we're losing it. Right now, I'm not making this up. We are sitting in the largest mass extinction since the dinosaurs. That's not a joke. And we know, unlike the dinosaurs, because we weren't around then, we can actually document that the things that we are doing are what's causing this mass extinction. We're losing up to 140,000 species a year. It's faster than we can count them. And it's not all just the forest flies of Brian Brown on California. Right here in our area, 85.5% of our natural environment has been turned over to human use. It's natural for us to do that. We want to do that. We're a species too. We need to take over and use things for our own use. So how do we curb it? What kinds of things can we do to help ourselves out? Well, you can do the things they always tell you to do, like recycle and reduce your carbon footprint or whatever. But you can also support research and pay attention to research and see if it really is as silly as the news tries to make it. Because people are actually out there trying to study things so that we can understand them. When we can understand them, we can know how to protect them and how to protect ourselves. You can also use your vote because our government does some really wonderful things for our environment, and it does it on a scale that no other entity in the United States is able to do it. They help us to keep our water clean, they help us to preserve and protect our land. Here at, our North Carolina government is out there putting oysters back into our tributaries and reseeding the oyster beds so that our water can be clean. We can't clean the water ourselves. We need those oysters. And I don't know anybody in this room that's going to wake up tomorrow morning and go out there and try to do it themselves. So thanks, North Carolina. So pay attention to what people believe in when you vote and see if there's people on both sides of the aisle that can help. Another thing you can do, which is more fun than voting, is you can participate in citizen science. There are tons of different projects. Citizen science is where people like you and me are hanging out. We can take our observations and turn them into real data. This is all from the Natural Science Museum, but there are tons of different projects, and you can go there and check them out. These are some of my favorite ones. You can see what's living in your armpits, because we don't know. We just know that it smells kind of fun. And this is eMammal here. Oh, I forgot I had this thing. eMammal is where they'll actually let you have a camera trap at your house, and you can see what's living in your backyard, because we don't know what mammals are going through your backyard. This picture was taken in my backyard in the middle of Raleigh. These two bucks are like having the time of their life. So of course Daddy went and bought 500 pounds of corn and put it out there for their to and then, or if you like frogs or turtles or nests, whatever, you can go out and take your observations and turn them into real data to help us to understand the world. And that would be great. Or you can just stop and look and see what's going on around you, because truly we have no idea what's going on around you. So you probably will learn something. Before I say thanks, I just really appreciate y'all coming out tonight, because y'all are the reason that I get to look at logs, because nobody kicked me out of town a long time ago. Y'all helped, so I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.